Parallel session number 7. Results, successful projects in building public policies. We'd like to call to the stage Elenara Silva Pintos, the moderator from Sports and Leisure Program, and the speakers Filippo Fosatti from the Italian Union Sports For All, Ruiz Brochero from the Institute, the Recreational Institute of Bogotá, Colombia, and Claudio Eduardo Bacci Martins from the Municipal Secretariat of Sports of Sorocaba. And I'll pass the floor to Elenara. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. That's much better. We're going to start our session number 7. From now on, we're going to have 3 representatives from 3 different countries, bringing Italy, Colombia, and Brazil together here on stage to deal with a very interesting topic: successful projects building public policies. So the idea is that through these reports we can have a good idea of the programs that can result in public policies and benefits for Sports for All, for the Congress, and the development and quality of life in populations in different countries. So with these 3 representatives, they will speak for a maximum of 20 minutes. So it's important to bear in mind how this panel works. You will each have an opportunity to speak, to participate actively, and writing your questions and sharing our support team, so that after all the speeches we can have these questions and for the questions to each of the speakers. And lastly, I will hand the microphone back to you so you can make your final remarks. Let's start. I would like to invite Mr. Filippo Fosatti, representative of the Italian Institution for Sports for All. Filippo is the president of UISP, Unione Italiana Sport Per. He's involved in urban planning and environment, and with improvement of health conditions to benefit the population. He's at the National Parliament of Tuscany. He believes in the strength of human development. He's a member of the Olympic Committee, and he manages the forums for the third sector. He believes that Europe does belong to the people, and he coordinates ISCA in the European continent. So please, Filippo Fosatti, you have the floor.
The project reach and added the political value, and they produce public policies which reward the sport and the growing of well-being and the quality of life of the residents in various countries. It is difficult to speak about this conflict, but my duty is to analyze the values coming from the sport projects realized at the European level, and if they have produced in some way public policies oriented to the increasing of the sport activities and the well-being of people. In order to create a correct analysis, it's necessary to distinguish the different contexts where it is possible to produce values and evaluate the different results we can reach. First, the value reachable inside the institutional political process. The first political value expressed by the projects concern the coherency and the efficacy with which they are placed in an institutional and legislation framework, well identified by the commitment, in our case, by the European Union. There is a work for us before declaration approbation. There is important work. Our duty was, for each declaration, advocacy work, for represents needs and the proposal of grassroots sport world. Lobbying, yes, but for all, not for us. The main is improve public messages and proposal. Not for us, but for all. So that we can see the first political value expressed by the project. Can you see? Moment. Dimmi dov'è. Okay. Oh, it's difficult to read, eh? Well, you can see, maybe. This is the white paper of sport of European Union. There is a wide definition. No. There is a wide definition, and the definition oriented, very oriented, to the sport for all field. Is important, important document, the first important document in the European institution. After this, there is a declaration of a communication of the European Commission. The European Commission is the government of Europe. There is a clear priority of social value in sport, to sport for all. It's important. The second declaration, very important. And then we have another declaration to European Parliament. All this declaration represent a very clear sequence of acts, declaration, which describes this framework. Proposed definition and priority for elaborating the call for proposal for funding the projects. So that we can easily say that the political value concerning this dimension is a precondition of the project itself. The duty of the commitment to be able to translate the results in political action, which could reach the objectives established. We talk about Europe. We are in Brazil. So just to give you some flash, we wish to have a European federation, but for the moment we have to be happy only to have a common currency, a common market, and a lot of jealousy among the countries. So, talking about European vision, till now the objectives on the matter of sport were not related to the increasing of the physical activities and for the wellness of the European residents. The objectives of the action realized till now, which are called preparatory actions, are related to the creation of indication and guidelines to leave to the different member states without any tie, the creation of a common know-how and of stakeholders networks able to support in future the action of the European Union. In this sense, we could say the project managed by ISCA and or the other member association, UISP and the other, have been really very well assembled and realized. For example, PAT. PAT has been funded by the Directorate General Health and Consumers of the European Commission. Santé, funded by the preparatory action of the Unity Sport, both led by ISCA. PAT put in relation national associations who had strong experiences in the field of sport and wellness with other associations who wanted to start working in this area. The methodology chosen has built a common language, a common grammar. This project has improved the capacity building and the skills of the different partners involved, structuring a useful network able to support the European initiative. Santé has strengthened and enlarged the network with a positive result of putting in a handbook all the good practices related to sport and well-being. These results permitted us to be one of the main interlocutors in the platform Health Enhancing Physical Activity, drove by the World Health Organization and the European Union, both in the European dimension that in national one. Olympia. Olympia is a project about the anti-discrimination in sport led by UISP, whose main focus is the gender diversity. Do you know, women are the half of all the sport people, but there is a very ridiculous percentage of women in the leadership of a federation, sport federation, of Olympic committee, of association of sport for all. Stereotypes and difficulty in the access make the sport path for women very difficult and something unpleasant. Olympia proposed a chart of the right for women in sport, very particular, not only statements of principles, but positive actions to overwhelm the discriminations. We gained an important success in the field of the European policies. We have a clear recommendation by the European Commission and Parliament about the topic of equal opportunity in sport. The constitution of an institutional working group, the Olympia Network is a part of it, to propose a roadmap for the 2014-2020 program. This example is useful also for putting in connection other indirect success of our activities. The European Union, despite the dramatic economic crisis, has confirmed the announced program on sport. So we'll have a 7 years program, 2014-2020, with a conspicuous budget. It's well for us, naturally. Of course, the final evaluation of how much we influenced the European policy throughout our project in this preparatory phase will be clear when we will know the priorities of the program, and we will see if the resources allocated are oriented to a sport for all policies, or if, on the contrary, they will privilege the economical and ethic emergency in the professional football, for example, and in general the elite sport. We don't know now. In this sense, I would like to talk about a current project, Good Governance in Grassroots Sport, ISCA project. The topic of the governance, in other words, transparency, democracy, inclusivity. This is a fundamental challenge for the sport world who wants to be a credible and a capable policymaker. The exchange should be between the research of a better quality of our clubs and the development of public policies which reward this quality. It is time to stop the mechanism which awards the more influent sport lobbies, which one would say they can have influence in the electoral consensus, but often not very clear on an ethic stage. There is a second aspect I am particularly linked with. The political value produced in addition to the institutional process. From the realization of the projects, we can gain two possible results, and sometimes we reach both. The good project could produce a political value inside and among the partners if the organization builds channels and occasions which put in communication the projecting team with the whole structure. This is valid for ISCA and its national partners. The creation and the realization of the projects are important occasions to confirm, refine, innovate the framework of the motivations and the priorities of the ISCA and its member programmes. We never exit from a project in the same way we enter it. Talking about my association, after PAT and the Santé, UISP has put the topic of sport health-oriented in the middle of the local activities. Around this asset, it has oriented the trainers, leaders, and the sport workers. It has changed the priorities in its activities in the political proposal addressed to the Italian sport and the political world, local and national. And we can observe a similar effect with Mimosa. Daniela presented yesterday the project. I don't repeat. But Mimosa changes us. Mimosa gives us the opportunity to see the world with different eyes, gives us the possibility to enlarge the sport offering and to train sport workers and the leaders with new skills and sensibilities. There is no place in Italy, from swimming pools to football pitches, where UISP now has not created activities dedicated to the social inclusion of people belonging to different cultures. So that we are producing on added value, the external one. External. On this front, it is possible to reach the most significant results in the creation of political value. The legacy of know-how, activities, relationship produced by the activities of the project is a strength able to produce a prompt political and practical effect on the whole national and European territory. It is necessary, for this reason, a political mobilization of all the associations. Standing alone or in partnership with other associations or private enterprise, with and towards local and national authorities. Only in this way it is possible to achieve concrete and visible results concerning the activities offered to citizens and or the production of new public policies for the sport for all. And through it, in the field of health, of the social inclusion, of the environment, of the economical development. In the Mimosa network, we included the local authorities and knew they support directly local program for the social inclusion in sport of the second generation of migrants and the Roma people. We protected, and we are part, a movement which we be able to arrive at the right of citizens for all the people born in Italy. A right we still do not have. I think only in Italy in the world, maybe. This is political value. These are the public policies we appreciate. ISCA produced such a miracle when has decided to transfer the acquired know-how during Pat et Santé in the campaign 100 million more Europeans active in sport and physical activity by 2020. A great and complex campaign for health against the sedentary way of life on which we built a large consensus of the European institutions. We lobbied the MEP, member of the European Parliament. We realized activities in many countries using the strength and the credibility of the campaign. Is problem of advocacy. Also in this dimension, we are strong because we say, not for us. Not for us. We propose something useful for all the people, for you, policymakers, for you, local authority, for you, political authority, not for us. This is advocacy. We say we can manage our campaign even without you. It's useful for you to participate, to sustain. And now one of the key points of this campaign is the Move Week. Now Move Week. What is? We will be have the light, a great light, over the thousands of activities in all over Europe realized by grassroots sport clubs, with health as a main focus. Move Week started. The test has been realized a few days ago. A large variety of partners has understood the challenge. Private foundations, important media network, Eurosport. Moreover, now Move Week is a proposal supported by the European Parliament, and we hope in future also funded, we hope. It has been announced in the program of the European Commission, the government of Europe. And now ISCA can say, I want to do, you want to do, I just do it. I'm the right partner for you. This is advocacy, This is more weak. So that our project should be considered as a dynamic process, form-fitting to the different countries, context, or the different sport organizations. The projects should be, in the same time, concrete application at the local level and a campaign able to make growing network and partnership, overcoming the strict criteria established in the public call for proposal. In conclusion, first, we should start from the project, think and act local, because the reasons of the sport for all are valid in each latitude and, of course, for everybody. Secondly, and last, we should strengthen our advocacy mission. Physical activity is human right, okay? Human rights affirmation story is a story of participation, is a story of fights, is a story of the involvement of all people in political changes. Our message will be, you can trust, for us is for all. Thanks.
It's interesting to notice that regardless of where each country is and their history, the difficulties, the hardships, and the concerns are the same. And when I say this, I say that the instruction we should have is thinking of policies for all. When you think of for everybody, you have to think in a very big dimension, very broad dimension. We have to think from children to older people, the challenges of each region, as you said, the limits in the possibilities of a construction that requires planning, constant evaluation, and also having continuity, because I believe that this is one of the biggest challenges that we have. Because I believe in your countries as well, we still have a process of building a mindset that needs to be respected, of valuing what exists and continue to do what's working. And in this sense, that we work in the Ministry of Sports, we're looking for this. And this morning, a group that works with the MOVE campaign, we talked about the big challenge that requires our attention, and there are partners in this process that are very important, considering the experiences and uniting forces for the same goal. I believe this is something very, very important, so that we can make the difference in this challenge when we have to work for everyone, really observing this big diversity that we have in Brazil, in Italy, and it exists in other countries as well as in Colombia. Thank you so much for your contribution. And now on to Oscar Brochero from the Institute of Sports in Bogotá. He is leader of the recreation programs for the humanitarian for the Sports Institute of Colombia. He is licensed in PE and master's in business administration, and has been working for 25 years in public and private companies in the organization and control of recreational programs, sports, and cultural programs. He's high school teacher, and he also leadership development and for sports. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very proud to share the experience in Bogotá, because we've been growing over this past year with the participation of people as our ancestors said, we cannot build the value of recreation and sports if we don't work with values. But I would like to start with a small sentence from Albert Einstein. Life is very dangerous, not because of people who do bad, but because of those who just sit down and watch it pass by. This gives us the first step for reflection, and that means, and that's what we've been learning in Bogotá. We've been learning with our experience. We were wrong. But these mistakes helped us to make some firm foundations and build things that are every day reaching people more, and people are receiving better because we are building these things face to face, shoulder by shoulder, person by person. It's a very detailed work that we've been doing over the years to take this to every corner of mankind, especially because of the characteristics that I'm going to show you soon. Oh, please raise your hand if you've been to Bogotá. See, very few people. Who has heard about Bogotá? Raise your hand. See, very few people. Raise your hand. Who's going to go to Bogotá after this? Okay. Well, Bogotá is a city that at this moment it has already 7.5 million people. It has some special particularities because it's at 2,000 and something meters above sea level, and this gives us a climate that is very variable, very diverse, and sometimes you can have different climates in the same day. The temperature is about 17 and 22 degrees. And is divided by different locales because it's so big. And he asked me I asked a taxi driver how is São Paulo, and he told me that São Paulo and Bogotá have the same condition because they're at the center of the city, and they have other cities that complement the city. The same thing happens in the city. In the north, it can take you 3 hours to cross the city, and we have other places that are rural cities where you have to go with a lot more time, because from downtown to these other cities can take 4 hours and a half just to get there. This makes it that our work becomes very diverse and dynamic. There are some very beautiful things I'd like to share with you. First, we have a system with parks. Nowadays we have over 5,000 parks in Bogotá. We have an average of 9 meters of green zone per inhabitant, which is a good average, even though the international standard is 15, and Bogotá is working on that. We've had big events. We had the Sub-20 World Championship last year, which I'm sure you followed because Brazil is going to have the next World Cup. So this experience in World Cup that was organized by FIFA, I'm sure it's going to happen. It's going to happen here too next year. This is a very similar city to São Paulo. Many of the things that we see in Bogotá, we see here with a lot of buildings, construction, traffic. I think traffic here is a little bit worse, but there traffic is not exactly quick either. There's a lot of traffic jams. We don't have metro, but you guys do, and you can enjoy this service. We also have a government that depends of the resources that come from taxes, and with this they do all the programs that we support in the city, and this allows us to have a certain independence from the national government. The national government helps the cities of other places that are smaller cities, but most of the money that we use for our programs comes straight from the city hall. Our transport system is in some ways is a model in the sense that it works very well. It's very similar to what you're developing here with exclusive lane for public transportation so they can transport quicker with some certain bus stops so that people can move around quicker. And since the public transportation is faster than going by car, so if you want to go from A to B, if you go by car, you might spend twice as much as public transportation, because public transportation is a lot quicker. With a series of events, we have over 1,300 events per year. It's a very dynamic city for culture, artistic, and sports, with some particularities, because we have very extreme climate changes. This happened 4 years ago when it snowed. We call it hail. We have sometimes all four seasons the same day, so you can have salt, hail, sun, hail, and then snow, and then the afternoon is nice again. So sometimes we have to respond to all these dynamics of the city, which are very particular to our city. Another thing that we have, because this is what you see the most, is the violence and the conflict. Normally, about 70 families have to leave their houses due to violence, and this makes us have unending work, because these things are happening because Bogotá is growing very fast, and these problems make it so that we have to respond to these people who have some kind of social need. The salesman who works in little huts was something very frequent in Latin America, but this has allowed us to generate some basis and of things that we'd like to build here. And we'd like to talk about the plans and the policies that we've had. Since 2013, we started to generate our strategy and mechanisms to develop the programs. After that, in 2007, we went back to write a document to guide and be the basis for this project. And in 2009, we did an additional plan that was built with the people, and this gave us a clear horizon, sharing the horizons. The institutional visions have to respond to people's needs and likes, the interests people have, because lots of times you believe that the urban sports are for everyone, and you start building and doing skating rings without consulting, because maybe the population from that area, maybe they like parks more. So it's very important to talk to the public. To do this, we developed this methodology that was basically to work in 20 places, which are 20 small cities that we divided in the big city into. These are formed by different neighborhoods, and in neighborhood you have meetings, and these community leaders, they participate, giving their suggestions, receiving what the community had to say, and then they could represent the community. And then this means that this was a general discussion, and then we validated the discussion so that what was in the plan was what people really wanted us to develop. We also After this, we had a partnership with one of the most important universities of the country, which allowed us to share the experiences with experts from this, experts in research for the university and the industry of sports, so that we could validate the sport academic-wise and socially. We elaborated a document that you could see here in this page that you see here, called Bogotá Más Activo.gov. And here you have the whole process and the process and the approval of these policies that we started implementing quickly. The first document we realized that we needed to have more participation, and we have a certain closeness to the city, and the culture of sports for all needs to reach more people. The priority of people is not to do physical activities or sports. I believe this happens all over the world, that sport is considered a third or fourth category of priority when it comes to usage of our time. We always prefer to work or study or doing other things, And the little time that we have left, we don't use it for sports, and we need to expand this participation. We need to strengthen the institutions, but the institution that is close to people. This is a starting point in the organization, because people need to organize themselves more. So, because when people are organized, it's easy to develop the programs. Also expand training, because one of the problems that we have is that we don't have enough people trained for this kind of cultural event. We need to also have better information, even though we see most people have email and internet. The population, it's important that we work more with people from lower strata. In the lower strata is 0, and the one that has the best conditions is 6. I don't know if you have this classification in Brazil. So usually we're working with people from the lower strata, which means 0, because for their situation they do not have such easy access to a computer or to internet. Improve everything that needs to be improved when it comes to parks, so that even though we have a lot of parks, we need to do better in this, so that we can look at the security and have better infrastructure. Each one of these activities, in each one of these objectives of the policies, we gave them some strategic methods to be able to attain these goals. In the case of participation, we wanted to strengthen the community participation that for us are indispensable, which are customers, and we want to, this is the focus that we want to give to our work, to be able to receive both and incentivize, promote sports and physical activity, to increase the programs nowadays. And what we did was, with traditional sports, is to look at that the other ones didn't have the same importance, so we had to modify the offer, maintain, improve the participation for citizenship when it comes to strengthen administration institution, to cooperate and partnership with, especially with the private sector. Nowadays, the resources that we receive to develop our programs are important, but they're not enough, because the demand is extremely big, much bigger than our capacity. Therefore, these partnerships are very important, and a lot more companies related to the sports. The Olympic Games, for example, I believe is the best case or example of gains in relation to partnership. The idea is that without losing focus, we can have strategic alliances to develop these programs. Another important partner is the university, because here you have the main researchers and lots of people who want to develop their practices with us. In the case of more training and education for an active life, which is what we're trying to do, is that we try all to give more time to these kind of activities that will, at the end, will give us much better health. Very full training, understanding that the intellectual education is important, but so is the physical. When these elements are not in balance, we have some inconveniences. If we just focus on sports, it's not good. Lessons learned and best practices. This is very important, because to keep building what's already built, sometimes when the administration changes or the kind of government that we have, sometimes it happens that what our successors did is no good for what's happening now, and a lot of these experiences are leverages for good programs. For example, the bicycle lane, which we've been working for 38 years. It's already an international model, and this, yes, you build over what's already built, give value to this kind of experience. We also have the subject of collaboration, where we're generating networks with users that have been properly identified according to their tendencies and likes and dislikes. And the communication with these people is direct. We are managing everything that has to do with networks and Facebook, Twitter, because all these things that are in style now, and we're trying to make the best of these. We have the district system of parks, which is really big, because it's more than 5,600 parks with different categories, each one with their own tendency and focused in what the community needs. We're also developing the culture of the habitant, which is about people, so that people feel the owner of these areas, because when you feel owner of something, you take care of it, you don't get it dirty, you keep an eye on what people are doing, so that the park is not dirty. You cooperate with the campaigns, so this culture of ownership to us is very important. The co-responsibility, environmental co-responsibility, we've been working on this. This is an international tendency. If we don't take care of our environment and the bigger environment, which is our park, these structures, the next generations will have less public spaces to have fun. The integration between the federal and the regional. We'd like to mention that it can take up to 4 hours to receive to get to another place. This time is, we're trying to reduce this, and the space between us city going to Bogotá, and these people are coming to Bogotá, and it didn't used to be like this. We also did an exercise in 2001, which are the bi-yearly fairs, which we have. The research is very big. So we have over 200 questions, but what we did is we tried to bring things that were very interesting of what's been happening in Bogotá when it comes to physical activity and tourism. Let's look at them real quick. Here, this was a research over 13,000 people. I think I need to do a course to learn how to use this. Okay, I think I got it now. It was 13,453 people were interviewed for this research, which give us a pretty good numbers. Over 95% we did this for different groups, and we divided the population basically in young people from 13 to 18 and people who are older from 18 on up. An important concept that I believe we're all working with in somehow, I don't know if it's the same one, but the organization of the World Health Organization establishes as physical activity any kind of movement that at the end you waste some calorie. That means recreational, sports, but all activities from now to today, such as walking, going up and down stairs, dance, and these kind of day-to-day work that have physical activity. So we'd ask people, based on that, we'd ask people, what did they do, or what did they do over the last week? Look at the interesting results we got. We realized here that one of the activities, main activities, that people walk a lot. I don't know if that's the same here, because due to the transport, people are obligated to look for places to study close to where they live and work close to where they live, to avoid some of having to get buses or drive their cars. So walking is really something that happens a lot. Something else that's very interesting is that the jobs at home, the tendency is that the women, 75%, they lead this responsibility of taking care of the home. When it comes to practice sports, it's more men do most of this. This indicates that we need to generate more opportunities for that women have space to do physical activities. So we are using, for example, at night in Bogotá, it's cold, and you think, who would think at night go out to do some gymnastics or aerobics? We did a test and we had fantastic results because we chose a place and from this spot 40 people came and we thought that nobody would come, but over time at night they are already free from their household duties, and then they can have time to do exercise. This is also interesting data about the body weight that these people have, and it considers that while men consider that they are in better physical condition or that their weight is at a better balance. So this is also important because in some way or another, it lets us know how much we need to inform people. Women don't feel this less, and this is also going to be the topic of a commercial, because if you see that most commercials that we see on TV, they always show these women with very skinny women that makes any girls, just normal girl, feels fat because the model that they're using is different from the reality of the average woman. That's why these women are often not unhappy with their weight, or when it comes to men, somebody that may have a couple kilos more, he's not classified as fat or obese, but somebody that's a little like strong. So this is a concept that we need to be careful with. In regard to their current lifestyle, these are the categories. See that the question was most men, about 59% of them, they consider themselves very active, when active women, only 58%, even though the difference is not so big. Now it's working. Now, one of the things that we realized, and thanks to this research, and now we're developing, is depending also of the age bracket the person is in, he will classify himself as less or more active. For example, we see that 55% of the young people consider themselves active, and those above 50, they also consider themselves very active. The percentages aren't very different, but these are the numbers that call our attention. And it calls our attention because the young people that have the more opportunity to do physical activities. One, because young people, because they have to be to school and their universities, and they have a lot of activity there. And the adults, in some ways, the free time they have when they're older, because they're retired, they dedicate themselves to these kind of activities. Also, we also asked this question because it's interesting to see that the problem starts at childhood. Physical education that we're having at the school is not excellent. Only 23% considered PE at school excellent, when 53% said it's good. There, we'd have to start working, because many of the habits that we have in our life are the ones that we acquire when at school. And if we don't strengthen these good habits, every day is going to be harder for us to have healthy lifestyle habits. Now, based on all of these questions, we looked at the sedentary level. For this, we have this picture. I'm not sure if you can see it well, but this is the one that we use that is used by the WHO, where it's fundamental that someone that is below 16 years old should be doing, so that he's considered active, 150 minutes weekly of activity. So wait, I think I said something wrong.
Sí. Okay, sí.
We're saying that the children below 18 are in a category that have the tendency to be sedentary, when the ones that don't have tendency to be sedentary, they're doing 300 and something to 400 minutes weekly of physical activity. This means that the young person needs to be doing physical activity for at least every day, and also depending if it's moderate or vigorous, they'll have different time limits to be able to classify himself as active or inactive. When it comes to adults, the time is established to establish basically 30 daily minutes of physical activity, and people who don't do that, they are classified as inactive or sedentary. We have an index of sedentary, a global index for sedentary. If we look, the tendency to sedentary is 52% of the population, and the tendency, and those that don't have the tendency, is 47%. What does this mean? That it's pretty big, and we need to bring these numbers down from 52%, because over half of the population at this moment is considered having a tendency towards being sedentary. This data is very important because in some way this is directly related to public health. In the case, for example, of young people, which is something special to observe, the concern is much bigger. You see, 83% of the young people are in the category of having a tendency towards being sedentary. They're becoming more passive. They're playing more electronic games and computers, activities that demand less movement. And when they meet, but it's not as like before, where we'd meet at a park or at a court to do physical activities, but nowadays basically they meet for sedentary activities. Overall, this is the number of most concerned, because this is not just happening in Colombia. If you review the stats for Mexico and the U.S., these averages are much bigger, and a lot of them are already obese. Okay, I'm finishing here. And when it comes to adults over 18 years old, the numbers are not so bad, because 51% consider themselves active. That means that the adults still have the tradition of being active, whereas young people don't. Going back to who's more active between men and women, and here again we see that the women consider themselves as less active than men. And here you have a situation where we need to continue working in to be able to make these numbers smaller. And when it comes to recreation, when we ask active people what influences or what's important to them, to these people who are active, of doing sports activities or recreation activities, and they would say that it was absolutely important. So these results here,
are key, because someone who does sports, we see that this person becomes a lot more active.
To finalize, we need to create a project to cater to all these expectations. This project is the Vital Recreation Project, where we have the big work issues, because last time I was here in São Paulo, we didn't have the public bicycles installed, and now you can see them throughout the city. And these are some of the initiatives that the cities are taking, because these are opportunities that generate actions for people to be more active. And in Bogotá is also very important to have these. We have community recreation activities, we have public bicycles and programs that are for recreational activities for people with disabilities, because in Colombia there are a lot more people than in other parts in the world, because we have about 10% of the total population is considered to have some kind of handicap. So it's important to have in recreation for children and adolescents as well. And it's very clear that these are the people who had the greatest tendency to be sedentary. We need to show you, for example, one of the new initiatives that we are developing. These are for employees. We're developing the topic that we're developing the initiative to go to work using bicycles. We're trying to encourage them to use bicycles like in São Paulo, and probably they will improve their health. And along those lines, we're going to develop the 5th week of the bicycles, and I would like to invite all of you. It'll be from the 11th to the 18th. This is an international event, let's say at a world level, and it's very important for the environment and for the cultural aspect and social aspect and recreational and also wellness aspect, among many others. We also have free bicycle services, and because most people need to pay for it or need to rent their bicycle, so we are using the initiative to offer free bicycles so that a person can take a bicycle from one place, travel to work, and then deliver the bicycle at another place using specific routes for bicycles. And at the end of this time, 2016, we're going to have 11 bike paths in Bogotá with this free service. The recreational path for people to practice physical activities. We're going to tell you a little bit about the women, that they can change a little bit their habits. Instead of watching the soap operas, they can do some kind of physical activity. This can help a lot. These are nightly physical activities and also physical activities in schools. The metropolitan events, city events, also to recognize the arts and culture that promote local and international artists. We're going to have some different metropolitan culture festivals, like in Rio de Janeiro, that last for 11 days. These are very interesting activities. And the last chapter, which is for older adults, that's where we are headed. I think all of us want to, in all the communities, we have to strengthen this aspect. This is a great way to think about the future and improve ourselves. I think this is what we wanted to highlight. This is something that's very important of what we have created in Bogotá. We created a vital passport. That means we use, in case of the women, for over 55 years old and for men over 60 years old. And with this passport, people can go into cultural places or tourist sites for free, and in many cases for free, and in some cases with 25 to 30% discount. So these are just different activities that we have to value social and physical activities in a way that is important for the families and people who have some kind of handicap, so that they can also use or take advantage of these activities. For example, young people, like we talked about previously, it's very important to think about young people, because this is one of the serious problems that has to do with all of us. We have young violence and different social groups, the NEMOs and different groups of young people, and we have to find different recreational activities for them. So this is very, very important work that we're doing with these groups of people. Okay. We're done. This is now I just wanted to share with you, because I believe that this is where our core message of the presentation is. A smile costs less than electricity, and it produces more light. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Obrigado, Oscar.
Thank you, Oscar. There was a very complete presentation, bringing us some very specific data about the research that was carried out. It's very interesting to see these results and work with these data. And it's also interesting to think about Colombia, who's been, Oscar, don't you think? Colombia's been trying to find an institutional space that is recognized in sports and leisure, so we wish you all the success in this work. So I'd like to invite Claudio Eduardo Bacci Martins. He's a representative from the Secretary of Sports in Sorocaba. He's the Municipal Secretary, President of the Sports and Leisure Institute. He's the President of the Fund for the Amateur Sports in Sorocaba. He has a PhD in Social Sciences from Unicamp. He's a master's degree and specialized in high-performance training for young people, and also in cinematography from Cuba, and works as a consultant and personal trainer for volleyball and basketball teams. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank SESC and ISCA for the invitation. I'm here representing Sorocaba. It's a great pleasure to be here and be a part of this panel. Let me just take the remote. To start off, I'd like to present Sorocaba to you. I think a lot of people are not from São Paulo. Sorocaba uses as a model and as a concept for political strategy two concepts. One is the healthy city, and the other is the educational city. We have 600,000 people, 85 kilometers away from São Paulo. We have a budget that is around 2 billion reais for 2013 and GDP of almost 12 billion. From this GDP in our budget, we use approximately 1% of the budget specifically for sports. But as I'm going to show you, we work with the intersectorial activities, and so a lot of the secretaries support sports. We are among the 10 cities with the greatest potential of consumption in São Paulo. With the concept of healthy city, this is what we use, what the World Health Organization foresees for these cities, which is strategic planning. Every 4 years, we sit down with the mayor to organize what's going to be done in the city. We are finalizing an 8-year cycle where our mayor has also worked for another 8 years as health secretary. So he's been with the project for 16 years, and that's why we're going to present to you what we've been able to do. We work with intersectorial activities where we listen to the community participates in the project. We try to find social equality. We promote health and quality of life awareness. I'd like to thank Ana, who is representing UNESCO. She's been with us for a while and helping us to build this educational city by prioritizing the training of values and citizenship to promote and learn in the city, with the city, transform the city into a great educational space, and promote community schooling. So these are the two principles we use to manage the city. Personally, I like to say that to conduct public management effectively, we need the places. If we have equipment but we don't have programs to use with these equipment, and it's no use. And without people, we can't promote any actions with people. So I'm going to use a bias here to show you the transformation of the city, and with the transformation of the city, what we are able to promote in terms of quality of life. So we have that physical activity is essential to improve the quality of life and to promote health. So our mayor is also a doctor. He uses this as a criteria to transform the city. From all the factors that are important for a person to reach 60 years of age with high quality of life, 50% has to do with the lifestyle. And based on this, we try to educate the population in terms of health and how to maintain a healthy lifestyle. We know that 60 minutes per week of physical activities, those who are not sedentary but are very little active, they reduce almost 40% the chances of having death related to sedentary lifestyle. If they are active, it's 66% less likely. So that's what we're working with. I'm going to show you a few things we've done around the city by promoting parks, walkways, bicycle paths, gyms, and programs to motivate people to improve their lifestyle. We've developed a bicycle plan with paths, and we've been doing this for about 7 years, and we've been trying to go from the Sorocaba River, which is a river that cuts through the city, and transformed it into a linear park. And from that, we started making transformations in the city. There are 97 kilometers of bicycle paths that are specifically only for bicycles. And this year we started implementing free public bicycles for the population. The government funds this initiative. This was an area of the Sorocaba River before and after the bicycle path. This is an area also around the river before and after the bicycle path. This is after. This is an area that is usually flooded. There's a curve of the river. It's a very flood-prone area, and during the flood season, we can't help but so this is a park. This is an avenue that used to be very ugly, and now that's what it looks like. This is the river, and this is where we have the linear park that goes for about 12 kilometers along the river, all along the river. This was a very run-down area before the bike path, and now that's what it looks like. This is an area that is interesting. We can't see it very well, but Sesc Sorocaba, the new Sesc, was built on this avenue, and because we have the Torres Avenue, this is where nothing can be built. This is an area where you cannot build anything, and that's what it looks like now. And Sesc is right over here, which used to be a physical activity and leisure area. That before and after, and Sesc is right here on the right. Sesc is right there. Simultaneously with this bicycle plan, we started implementing building parks. In 2005, we had 5 large parks. Now we have 20 parks, and until the end of the year, we're going to have another 5 parks with 600,000 square meters to preserve some native species that are about to be extinct. The areas in red are all the bicycle paths that are ready, and the dotted lines are the ones we are finishing. Sorocaba is not a flat city. Sorocaba, in the Indian language, it means a rugged area, and this is a very rugged path. So first we put the bike paths in place so that we can, and then we brought people in to start using them. It may seem unlikely, but we have an average of one vehicle, one car for every two people. Almost 456 years. We're very closed off, and the traffic is very complicated there. So using and encouraging the use of bicycles is important for us, not just as a means of transportation, but in terms of savings and for environmental issues. This is a rundown area that was made into a park, that was transformed into a park. This is the area which used to be like that. In the center region, we have a water catchment area that had to be built due to flooding, and this is what we did and this is a park in honor of the Japanese population that came to the city. This is an area that is very important for the city in the north area where 60% of the city live. This is Vila Formosa. It used to be very ugly, and with the transformation, the area, the poorer population took over, and this encourages the practice of physical activities. Then I'm going to talk about a different initiative. We get thousands of people in the park to practice, to do gym, to do physical activities. This is an area of the river. It used to be a flood area, and from this area here we built a park called Park of Waters, and every 15 days we have a great race and also bicycle races. Also, it doesn't have to do with sports, but Zero Victims from Flood Situations tries to transfer people in risk areas, and this is also offering a space for physical activity. So in an area of very high probabilities of flood, with a partnership between federal and local government, we created areas around the neighborhood with basic health stations, schools, and removing these houses and create parks so that they could use this area and make the place prettier, so that they could use and take over this environment and take charge of this environment. So an ugly area was transformed into pretty areas and gave another feeling, another encouragement to the people in that area. And because we work with different sectors, I'm going to present different programs that are my responsibility. Some programs are under the Secretariat of the Environment, others with the traffic agencies. I'm going to show you some photos, some pictures for you to see the transformation in the city. This is the walking project. We started this in one park where people wanted to walk. So we started with the walking path so that they would have a permanent walking group. Now we have 11 of these groups with over 1,000 people who walk on a daily basis, with the support from the health agency. And there are thousands of people walking and running. We have a lot of groups for runners and for people who like to walk. We have different competition and partnerships with NGOs. And the city was transformed. Today, the government only offers the infrastructure, and the organizations, be them profit or non-profit, they carry out the activities based on this project. And once a year, we have an event called 24 Hours Walking. And there's a challenge of rotating people to walk during 24 hours to mark that day. This is the day that we have to encourage physical activity. It's done in April to celebrate the Health Day, the International Health Day. And this, for us, this is a benchmark for people to start being encouraged to take on physical activities. Another program is to pedala Sorocaba, to encourage people to cycle, because in Colombia they have an impressive know-how. So we went after this partnership, bringing together thousands of people in avenues and parks. Night bike rides, encouraging people to leave their houses and take over the streets. Bicycles in schools and bus stops and public areas, and more recently, the public bicycle. This is called Integra Bike. And in Sorocaba, we use the same card. People use cards for public transportation for the buses. They can use for the bikes as well. And on these cards are registered all the personal information of that person. So if somebody steals the bike, we know where it came, where the bicycle left, and who was renting it. And during the first day, people stole wheels, handlebars, and 2 hours later, one of the police cars went to the person's house wanting to know if he was the one who used the bike, and in his house they found all the equipment that had been stolen. This was very much shown on TV, and from then on, no more situations like that happened, and so this made it a lot easier for us to control it.
The outdoors gym, we try to install these in places where they cannot have parks inside sports centers so that the population can use these for free. We do not have professionals, PE professionals, using these things because the government does not have the means to hire them. Of course, professionals go through there to do maintenance and give some kind of instruction. A big project that's very important called Via Viva, which was also based in the projects of Colombia and Mexico, New York, San Francisco. Every Sunday in the morning, we close off 4 kilometers of an avenue. We close it for traffic at a place in Sorocaba, and we offer this place for the population to ride their bicycle, walk, different recreational activity, health services. Mothers go with their children, bicycles. We also have people on wheelchairs. A lot of people on wheelchairs go there, rollerblading. We have a mini traffic city that teaches the children how to walk around in the traffic of city, if they're walking or if they're driving their bicycle or going by skates. A lot of children learn how to ride their bicycles here. They participate from different sports. We have an exchange system for books, and then they can take a book home, bring another one. And we have a man's bus and a woman's bus that have different clinical tests for checkups and stuff. So at that morning, about 5,800 people go through these places. We've had 72 editions of this program. Now we've had almost 300,000 people who've been through this program. Since it's a main avenue of the city, obviously we have a lot of pressure from the market and the drivers because they think it gets in the way because of the traffic. For about 15 days ago, we had it's 2 big lanes, highways with 3 lanes each. We had to open 1 lane for cars to come by, but this did not diminish the number of people that come, but it was a bit of a setback, just like in Colombia where they were able to reconquer a lane. We hope to be able to do the same. Just to have an idea, we try to have indicators of the participants, and we try to do at least 50 researchers at each edition, and amongst the questions we asked them how long they do physical activity, how intense was, and in average 45% do about 50, they spend about 45%
of their time of the 150 minutes they should do a week. They do it on Sunday. Just for you to know, when we do physical activities, we can save about $150 per year in health costs. If we, at each $1 that the City Hall is investing in this program, the population saves $2.3 in direct health costs. And that's a very important number because we try to promote health. So we see another thing that is not just recreation, but it also has another benefit and very low cost. The investment is rewarded just through physical activity. This is our team, our mayor. We have a PE team of professionals who walk around during the whole time from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, giving people instructions, controlling, see if there's an accident, what is right, what is wrong. And we have many partners, including SESCI is a big partner of the City Hall and of this program. A lot of activities are done by SESCI on Sunday. We have a big infrastructure with a trailer to give some kind of support to people. We have cars. We also have first aid. And in these parks that were implemented last year, we also started having some kind of gymnastics at the park. There's some professors who go to 3 parks, morning, afternoon, and night, to whoever's there. We were able to get over 700 people per day participating of this, which makes us think that all we need to do is have the initiative of offering the space, offering the program, that people will come. 2 years ago, at a meeting of the WHO in Europe, Portugal, a teacher from Portugal presented work that she does, that mothers try to take their kids to a park if it's 300 meters away from their house, and adults if it's 500 meters away. We're trying to adopt this to transform some areas into parks so that these parks are close to the population. For them to participate, we need to be close to them. If it's not a nice and pleasant place, people will feel more comfortable being at home in front of their TVs. So this is the Aguas Park with the different activities. And to finish, in closing, it was published recently in July in Lancet, a research that showed, and we're very happy with this, showing that Sorocaba, São Paulo, has 600,000 inhabitants, has a record decrease in hospital admissions for hypertension from 1.89 cases for every 10,000 person to 0.9 in 2009. This result is linked to the adoption of participation of physical activities. This shows us scientifically that the change or that opening a space and having programs, people change their habits and have physical activities. And I need here to mention something that Anna Moser said. She was part of somebody that inspired us. She said, global vision, local action, methodology, and intersectoral union. These are 3 points that are important for us to promote different actions. I would say that we need leadership, inspiration, and opportunity for the people. And I also need to thank our mayor who is here, that in his office he has ethics and partnership. That if we don't have ethics and partnership, we can't make things come about. And just doing a little something for Move Brazil, please feel like you're a partner from the City Hall so we can do these things to change the behavior in the city. Thank you, Claudio, for your contribution. It's not easy to work intersectoral, especially when you're dealing with problems like rains and land and the occupation of different lands. Congratulations. Now let's go on to the questions. We received 4 questions. 3 of them are for Oscar, and 1
until now goes to Filippo. The first comes from Daniela Rocha. She asks Oscar Luis, where she says, the first government plan for more active life to last 5 years. The program now has 10 years. It's been extended. What's the goals in relation to time? Do you try to attain these goals based on past experiences?
Muchas gracias por la pregunta porque nos da la oportunidad de decir que este es un
very much for the question, because this is something that started 15 years ago. So some of you, this was a very particular city because Alcal, he was a mathematician and he started to see in the recreation and sport a strategy for education and health. From then on, we generated the basis for what we are now doing. What we're doing now, we're trying to do now with all these programs is definitely trying to have a city that is a lot more healthy, a lot healthier. That people can use the park and they can go to their offices, and that their workplaces will also be considered as spaces for physical activity, because what we want to attain is that the physical activity is at every level and it permeates all the companies and make Bogotá a much healthier city. We have some conditions that favor us, among them the climate, because most of the time we are in summer, and this makes it that people can enjoy a lot easier being outside. But these indexes that we saw as tendencies to be sedentary, we want to make these a lot to drop, and we want to have a lot more active people, and especially the young and children population, where we have the main problems, to change this lifestyle that are more oriented towards technology and have lifestyles that are more oriented to development of motor skills. I'm not saying it's a taboo, technology or the systems, but we need to learn how through them we can learn to improve that our young people dedicate a lot more time in the park and less time in front of the computer. Therefore, our main objective is to have a much healthier city. Thank you. Next question is from Pedro, and it goes to Filippo, where he says, you mentioned from the experiences that you got from the projects, these experiences intensified your public policies, and how did they?
Thanks for the question. First, we using know-how of PAF and Santé for learning of trainers and manager of our sport clubs and our structure, association structure. Then we launch national projects in the field of health. First package, older people specific gymnastic. We offer physical activity adapted, this is the name, with low prices, in little spaces, not necessary concept for sport. And our trainers goes, if is necessary, in the house of older people. Second, children program. We can translate Let's Go project, diamoci una mossa in Italian. It concerns physical activity in the school and in the family. In the same time, program of education to correct nutrition for the children and the family. First package is tested by our resources. Second, add a little fund by Minister of Welfare, Italian Minister of Welfare, but little fund, not possible to continue program with a little fund. So, when government built the Italy table of IPA, Health Enhanced Physical Activity, the great European program for the movement, government called UISP at the table for the quality of the Italian project of UISP. From this moment, from the moment of participation at the national table, many regions of Italy have UISP like partner. UISP became partner of local authority. And is more important, local authorities support, fund or launch our projects. Tension, sometime with different partners that UISP, other association or ONG. But doesn't matter. Results for lives people is important. And a better environment is a better environment for next project of UISP, I think. Happy end. Let's go. The project, the children project, have a fund from Kraft Foundation. You can say that private, corporate also became partners and can improve in the correct way public actions.
Obrigada. A próxima pergunta é para o Cláudio. Não foi identificada. Quais são os planos de política pública para dar continuidade ao projeto, vencendo o mandato atual prefeito? Do mandato do atual prefeito?
Não sei. A gente está fechando um ciclo e eu termino em 31 de dezembro. A partir disso, eu vou estar ajudando o projeto enquanto pessoa física. Como no Brasil a gente sabe que esses processos eleitorais não são muito planejados, eu fico muito à vontade para falar que eu não tenho a mínima ideia do que vai ser feito. E isso, infelizmente, acontece, acho que em todos os municípios. Não sei até onde existe um programa de governo, um planejamento de governo. Se for solicitado ajuda para a gente continuar com os projetos que estão sendo construídos há muitos anos, evidentemente que, independente de partido, a gente faz porque tem que ser comprometido com a causa. Mas, da minha parte, não existe nada assim, programado para a gente continuar os projetos. A gente espera, como a própria Ana falou, que projetos bem feitos e que tenham uma realização boa sejam continuados. Muitas vezes não são. A gente espera que sejam implementados, inclusive. Essa é a esperança que a gente tem num país que está se transformando.
Que ótimo. É isso aí. A outra pergunta, então, nós recebemos outras perguntas, mas, infelizmente, em função do tempo, nós não vamos poder fazer, até para que os nossos convidados possam fazer as considerações finais, ok? Então, eu vou fazer a última pergunta e depois apenas um elogio aqui que precisa ser considerado. É para o Oscar, a próxima pergunta. Desde o início do MOVE 2012, muito se fala sobre a importância da dificuldade de desenvolver projetos com o envolvimento de diferentes setores governamentais e civis. A cidade de Bogotá apresenta claramente ações bem-sucedidas nesse aspecto. Qual é a estratégia utilizada para agregar diferentes setores em prol da atividade física?
Bueno, uno de los programas que es modelo en muchos aspectos es precisamente el de la ciclovía, porque allí hemos logrado juntar a la academia, en donde la gran mayoría de las investigaciones que se han realizado son precisamente gracias a las universidades, tanto la Universidad Nacional, que es la universidad más importante del país, como también la Universidad de los Andes, que permanentemente tiene estudiantes de doctorados y maestrías haciendo investigaciones con relación a las consecuencias de los programas que nosotros estamos desarrollando. Parte del éxito de poder lograr esas alianzas, ese trabajo en equipo, ese compartir, es precisamente por la continuidad. Este es un programa que tiene 38 años de existencia y ya está muy posicionado dentro del concepto de ciudad. Casi que para hacer una especie de paralelo, es tan importante como el carnaval de Río para los brasileros, es parte de su cultura. Así pasa entonces con el tema de la ciclovía. Y hemos logrado precisamente que la empresa pública vea en este programa una oportunidad también de acercamiento a sus clientes directos. Y esto lo hemos logrado gracias a investigaciones en donde estamos determinando cuál es el tipo de población que pasa por cada uno de los sectores, cuáles son sus estratos, cuáles son sus gustos e intereses. Entonces, para una empresa es muy fácil hacer una campaña promocional que se dirija directamente a su target, a su grupo focal, y eso hace que la alianza público-privada, que es la que nosotros manejamos, nos permita hoy, en este programa que está avaluado en cerca de $1 millón, nosotros conseguir a través de estas alianzas alrededor de un 55-60% de apoyo económico de la empresa privada. Y precisamente hemos logrado que a través de este programa, lo que tiene que ver con la Secretaría de Salud, con la Secretaría de Educación, con la Secretaría de Gobierno, vean en este tipo de acciones que involucran muy alta participación. Nosotros estamos hablando de que cada domingo en promedio pueden estar asistiendo 1 millón de personas a la ciclovía, que tengamos un espacio ideal para que la comunidad se dé cuenta de todo lo bueno que está pasando en la ciudad. Es como una vitrina para que las demás instituciones se vendan. Entonces, la Secretaría de Salud hace campañas, hace programas de vacunación, hace campañas para que la gente done sangre y de alguna forma encuentra en nosotros una muy buena oportunidad, en el sentido en que la gente ve directamente sus impuestos, los están reflejando en buenas acciones, y eso es lo que ha logrado que podamos nosotros generar como ese tipo de sinergias. Y así ha pasado con muchísimas otras actividades. Por ejemplo, vale la pena destacar el tema de la atención para personas con limitaciones, que es un sector muy importante en nuestro país. Yo lo mencionaba, Bogotá tiene un nivel de personas con discapacidad diferente a cualquier parte del mundo. Para nosotros el 10% de la población es discapacitada por las diferentes situaciones de conflicto, y hemos logrado que sobre este sector muchísimas empresas estén precisamente ayudando a que la gente vuelva a recuperar su confianza física, social, intelectual, y se vuelva a reincorporar a la sociedad. Pero eso lo hemos logrado es precisamente con una estrategia que se llama continuidad e investigación, en donde estamos de manera paralela mostrando que el programa no es una tendencia a corto plazo, no es una actividad, sino que es algo que va a tener una repercusión en el tiempo, y sobre todo que se están mostrando los resultados con las familias directamente, en donde se ven los cambios que tienen las personas al participar de este tipo de programas. Lo mismo ha pasado en muchísimas otras estrategias, en donde gracias a la continuidad y sobre todo la investigación permite que la gente tenga realmente un nivel de confianza muy grande en nosotros. En Bogotá, de manera permanente, una entidad que es la Cámara de Comercio de Bogotá hace unas mediciones de lo que la gente piensa de sus instituciones. La encuesta se llama Bogotá, ¿cómo vamos? Y la podemos consultar por internet. El resultado siempre nos ha dado es que estamos entre las 3 primeras entidades que la gente identifica con mayor nivel de confianza y de credibilidad. O sea, gracias a que con las investigaciones mostramos que lo que estamos haciendo, lo estamos haciendo bien enfocados, y sobre todo que hay una continuidad en el servicio. Es supremamente clave eso, porque a veces ese primer fogonazo, la primer chispita, a veces no da el resultado que nosotros queremos, pero con un trabajo organizado, continuo, intenso, podemos ir logrando que la gente confíe y participe. Muchos de nosotros participamos en alguna actividad por pura casualidad, porque de pronto la vimos un día pasamos por el frente de la calle y decimos, ve, hasta chévere, yo ni siquiera sabía. Es como lo que normalmente nos puede pasar. A la segunda vez dice, oiga, yo he visto esto varias veces, hasta bueno participar. Y en la tercera oportunidad que pasa ya se queda un rato y comienza a ser cliente, gracias a la continuidad y la investigación. Ahora, hay que también darle un crédito muy importante al talento humano que estamos utilizando nosotros para el desarrollo de estos programas. Todas las personas que trabajan con nosotros tienen un alto nivel de formación en cada una de sus áreas respectivas, que eso es lo que garantiza es que el servicio que está recibiendo la comunidad es un trabajo técnica y científicamente comprobado que pues definitivamente da los resultados que son. No se improvisa con el tema del talento humano porque realmente eso lo que garantiza que el servicio al cliente, ese momento de la verdad, ese momento de contacto, realmente a la gente le quede como algo que genera un saldo en su vida.
Obrigada, Oscar. Agora registro apenas, mas registro importante que a Lara faz para o Cláudio. Parabéns pela transformação promovida em Sorocaba. Continue liderando e inspirando outras cidades no mundo e oportunizando o esporte para todos. Eu vou solicitar então aos convidados que façam um breve encerramento, fechamento, porque nós já estamos meio adiantados da hora e não podemos prejudicar mais o nosso cronograma. Agradecendo desde já as contribuições, foram extremamente ricas. Sem dúvida alguma, a gente sabe que construir política pública, tema da nossa mesa, é um processo contínuo que requer muito esforço, muita dedicação e um olhar muito apurado, né, para todas as questões que envolvem os interesses da sociedade de um país, de uma cidade, de um estado, né? Então, desde já, muito obrigada. Começamos então na ordem de apresentação por Filippo, seguindo por Oscar e depois Cláudio.
I want to say about a political problem. In the 1980, Reagan and Thatcher said the state isn't the solution. The state it's the problem. We see the results after more than 30 years. They had cut welfare and public debt growth. Now in Europe, somebody, I think a majority of political maker say society isn't a solution. Society is the problem, and they want to talk with a single citizen. I heard in this discussion from our friends of local government that municipality sport programs produced many occasions for public debate. I heard a good word, concertation. I don't to translate in English, but strong and forte compromise, but it's not the same concertation. You involved civil society, sport association. So I agree, very agree. We take a gift from Latin America. You say that for success of sport health program is important partnership among the public authority organized society and other partner, private maybe. Society is not break, is condition for success of program. Society isn't problem, is a solution, I think. Thanks for this.
And during the afternoon, it's unfortunate that we don't have a little bit more time, but as a conclusion, we have three fundamental aspects. First, every time we build a policy, a public policy, we also need to use participation of the people. It has to be based on this participation, because here in this room, we've discussed this in great length, because if to generate opinion, we need the feedback, we need to learn what these people expect. As the community, we can get absolutely wonderful responses for the most important programs at the world level. For example, World Championships, World Soccer Championships, and Olympic Games based on volunteer work. And if we do have the will and if we have the time, we have to do everything that involves this type of program. And as a second conclusion, I think it's worth learning from experiences that other cities have had and other countries have had, or some other types of organizations have been able to achieve in terms of benchmarking, because a lot has been said and a lot happens in different parts of the world. And in these programs, sometimes the programs are much more important when somebody from the outside looks in. In Colombia, we understand that we are an object. We're an object of the news, and we're very traditional in that sense. And we can tell a lot of great experiences, but it's news when an international news from New York or from Chicago, when they implemented the bicycle paths, when they commented this in the news, they weren't big news in all communication mediums in Colombia. But when we copy something, then it's news. So in this sense, benchmarking is absolutely clear. And the third reflection that I think more than ever has to do with this topic is immediate communication, because a lot of things that we've been able to achieve, we were discussing different experiences that we didn't have and we didn't know that there existed. And surely, maybe we could use this type of offers, and because we didn't know that we had the opportunity to use this. So we have to strengthen communication. Sometimes we do a lot of good things, but people don't know about this. They don't know what we're doing. And it seems to me that the things that are at our hands' reach, we need to use it in our favor so that people can receive more information about the programs and the benefits from the sports for all and physical activities can bring to them. And especially for those people who actually require it more. Thank you for sharing all of these experiences, and thank you for listening to us. We have a Colombian that talks a lot. A colleague from Italy that also speaks a lot, so I'm going to be brief. The topic here is Move 2012, actions in the present, platforms for the future. Actions generate results. Let's act. We have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of know-how resulted from the universities and from the colleges. We have a lot of learning experiences, a lot of knowledge from public or private organizations. The Brazilian people, let's talk now to you. Brazilian people who are here are very passionate for everything we do. Those of you who work with physical activities and sports, you do it because you love it. Many came from high-performance sports and now work for the general population. We have to act. We cannot just stand still or be afraid. And when we have the first opportunity with the government, the first opportunity we see a closed door, we cannot feel rejected. We have to knock a second time, the third time. Because if we don't have this unity of the people with the government, we're not going to be able to change. The two of them have to walk together, have to walk hand in hand. Today, I am a mix of a professional who works in research and the private initiative with the government. So I work with the three spheres. Those of you who are only in one sphere, it's a little bit more difficult. I was talking to Ana. We've tried to establish projects with Pelke. We've been trying to create a university with a different concept, maybe an Olympic campus in Sorocaba with a federal university. Great changes. We need a lot of planning. We need a lot of work demand, but we also need to act. We can't just stand still. If everyone is here committed to that, I'm sure that we're going to be able to change the sedentary lifestyle from the kids to the adult. And those 5 years more, or the 5 years less, we're going to bring it down. We're going to make our kids get up and move themselves and be happy about it. And that's the message. Let's act. Thank you once again. Great success to all of us, to all of you, using Sports for All. Thank you for all for being here.
Agradecemos aos convidados Filippo Fosatti,
Oscar Ruiz Brochero, Claudio Eduardo Bacci Martins, and the moderator, Elenara Silva Pintos. Thank you very much. We're going to have another break for the poster sessions and open markets. We'll be back here at 6 p.m. with the closing journal with the Move Vision 2012.